Well, let's turn to another retail analyst for his outlook on the industry. Marshal Cohen is a senior industry analyst at the consulting firm NPD Group with experience working in the retail industry. He was a merchandise manager at Bloomingdale's and then an executive at Williwear. Am I saying it right? Williwear and Adrian Vittadini. I remember them. Marshal, good to have you back with us. Good afternoon.
Pleasure to be here.
So that retail sales number, better than expected. Does that mean all things are okay in the retail industry?
It doesn't necessarily mean everything's great, of course, but it does really tell us a very important message, and that is the consumer's not running away. Even with all the negative news about the credit market, even with all the negative news about the job market, the 92% of consumers that have their job are basically now sitting there telling us, you know what, I am going to spend. I'm going to spend on necessities, and they're starting to spend on some other essential items, things that they need to replace.
Right.
So they're
like
starting
cars,
to loosen.
because cars were a big component this month.
You know, if you really think about it, if the car business can really start to turn around and get the consumer to spend, that's going to be a major change, because that's one of the few areas where consumers really can stretch their dollar a lot further, keep the item longer. You know, as we enter into back-to-school season, the consumer, they don't really have that choice. They have to buy new clothes for their kids because they've either outgrown them or outworn them.
Or they can make them wear things if they still fit.
If they still fit. But that gets hard to do the second year.
Well, all right. But, I mean, still, though, we're seeing a lot of discounting, though, when it comes to retails. I mean, people are kind of holding off. They expect a bargain, right?
Yeah, you know, we've really seen the retail industry educate the consumer to expect a sale.
Right.
You know, it's like, and it's going to be very difficult for the retailer to wean the consumer off of the discount. I call it discount detox. That's really one of the key things that's going to take for retailers to get back into the positive side of the business.
Can they do that, Marshall, because we've become so accustomed to it?
It's going to take time. It's really going to take, they've got the inventory in line, that, you know, they've done a really good job of that.
Right.
What they now need to do is get exciting and compelling merchandise and hold true to the price points, which means they can't try to put Christmas in July.
Right.
You know, they really can't put merchandise out too early.
Who's doing that? Is it Sears that's doing that?
Sears and Kmart announced that they're going to do this. It sounded much bigger than what it really turned out to be. They're really talking about offering the consumer the opportunity to get layaway and maybe buy some collectible items for those real early bird special shoppers.
Right.
But, you know, other retailers may follow this and sit there and say, yeah, we are going to try to rush the holiday season.
But in general, retailers have to have some leverage before they can stop saying, well, we're not going to do a sale every other month or every month, correct?
Yeah, what it really takes is for the product to be new, fresh, and exciting. If you look at what's gone on, one of the few industries that have done well is the cell phone industry, because they keep coming up with new and exciting technology and have really catered to a broader sector. That's what's needed in product. If you think about fashion as a great example,
right,
there's nothing new and exciting.
Right.
And that's what's really not driving the consumer into the store or feel the need to buy at full price.
All right. So in terms of positioning, who do you think at this point, you know, is starting to get it right? They get the idea about how important product is ultimately.
You know, there's a couple of interesting things. There's no one channel that's really going to do great. It's not going to be luxury. It's not going to be the low end. It's not going to be the mid-market. But there are going to be isolated retailers within each segment that are going to fare well. Good example would be the longer the recession continues and the longer stabilization is upon us,
right,
that's going to favor Walmart, because more consumers are going to continue to spend during some of the key periods. More people are going to go towards Walmart, and they're going to learn about
Walmart.
it. Exactly. So it's about discovery and retention. It's also about going to benefit somebody like a Target, who's going to start to get the ones that are starting to creep up and say, you know what, I want to spend a little bit more again, and I want to buy a little bit better, so they'll creep up towards the Targets. So those two are in good position. In the middle ground, probably Macy's is probably the best suited because of the department store mix, the way it works.
Right.
But on the luxury end, which is going to be the biggest challenge of all and the slowest to recover, Saks is really poised in a really good place, because they're sitting there basically admitting that we are now going to go after 3 different levels of consumer. We've got our inventories in line, is what they're telling us, and they have. And, you know, I go through the stores and I see that they've really created a much better mix for the consumer now to return.
We got about 30 seconds left. You keep mentioning inventories. It was important that these retailers get that in line. Is there a chance, though, Marshall, come back to school, back to holidays, that they're so lean on inventories that they're going to miss out here? Yeah,
there is such a thing as going too lean and too mean, meaning getting the assortment too trim, and that's part of this merchandise mix that's mixing. So really, in some cases, some of the retailers have actually cut too much inventory to allow for any growth at all.
Got it. All right, something to keep a watch on. Marshall, thank you as always. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Marshal Cohen of NPD Group.